Hey everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and welcome back to this part 3 of this lovely 1/72nd scale Avro Vulcan D2 build. So what have we done so far? In part 1 we got all our cockpit all glued together. In part 2 we did a lot of painting, and then we got our nose section together, got some weight in the nose and everything. So part 3 is going to be all about starting on the airframe. Now I've decided that I'm not going to go for the blue steel, so I'm going to have a Bombay, but I'm going to have a camouflage scheme, so the model may end up being slightly incorrect or whatever. We've got parts in the box, you've got separate, you've got different exhausts, you've got different tail fins, the top of the tail fin, and you've also got different nose sections, so you can pretty much build pretty much any Vulcan you want within reason. I have got aftermarket decals, so if I am worried about accuracy, I don't have to build the one in the box. But then saying that, somebody has posted, if you look at my, I think it was in my comparison video, the model that's in the box is XM594. As it comes out of the box, it is as it was on that day in 1966 with blue steel. Currently it doesn't have blue steel, and it's still got the camouflage, but it's got different exhausts, I think, and it's got a different fin capping. So there you go. So you pay your money, you take your choice, or you just build the model and have fun with it. So here we're looking at starting on the Bombay and getting all the wings together and everything. Now when we get to this point here, we've got all the wings together, we start looking at the intakes. Now the intakes are definitely going to require some sanding. They may require some filling. There may be ejector pin marks in them. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what they're like. You will see here my sprues are cut in half. The reason for that is they wouldn't fit in the sink, because I've washed them all. You can see there's still got some water on there. Blow that off. Got it on the instructions. So yeah, luckily, thank you Airfix. I don't know why everyone can't do this. They've got the ejector pin marks on the outside. Well done. Why didn't everyone do that? So we've got no ejector pin marks to worry about, but we're going to have a seam around here, around the splitter, and we're going to have seams down the sides. So what I'd like to do is get these glued together now, so they're good and hard and solid, ready for putting filler in and stuff. Because if you rush it and you do it too quickly, what will happen is everything will sink back, and you end up with a big seam line down here, which is very visible on the finished model. Down here you've got to look for it, but there you're going to see it. So it's best to deal with this now. So we're going to get these off the sprues. I've had a tidy up, and now I can't find anything, which is normal, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to get these off the sprues. I think they're numbered on the parts. No, they're not. So I think what we'll do, so that's 4, 5, 6 and 7, I'm guessing. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab a marker pen, and we are going to go 4, 5, 6 and 7, just in case. It may be engineered so you can't do it wrong. Most models these days are, but it's good practice to number them, because you don't want to find out too late, if you know what I mean. So we just nip these off the sprues, just like so. I keep calling them sprues, I don't know why. It's sprue, it's singular, Nigel, it's not two of them. So we don't really need to worry too much about the sprue gates on here, because the outside of them doesn't matter. But good practice just to remove them anyway. There we go. So the instructions is telling us to put these parts together with those splitters. Now where are the splitters? I can't see any splitters. Where are they? They're not on the blue steel sprue. They're not on the bomb sprue. They're not on the control surfaces sprue. There they are. They're with the rest of the undercarriage and everything. So 36 and 37, again we're going to have to write on those. So what I'll do is I'll take one off at a time. So I'll take 36 off first of all. In fact, what I'll do is I have 36 here, and then we'll take 37 off and put 37 over out of the way. There we go. Okay, so now we can get all this out of the way. Sorry guys, I should have done this before I turned the camera on, shouldn't I? Hey ho. So we'll remove these sprue nibs from here. Okay, so that's 36. So 36 is going to go between number 4 and number 7. So there's number 7. There's number 4. So those two there, and then we'll put those two over there with the other splitter out of the way. So if you look in here, Airfix have done a great thing, and they've given us a template, because when you look at the Vulcan, the intakes have the camouflage in going into the intakes a certain amount, and it's always a problem to paint them. Now what they're doing here is suggesting that you mark a line and paint it white and paint your camouflage and everything. The trouble is, if you paint it white and paint your camouflage, you've then got seams to deal with. So what we've got to do is glue them together first and then do this. So what I'm thinking is, and if you've got some better ideas, please send me your suggestions, guys, I'm all ears. But what I'm thinking is get these together, deal with the seams, okay, get all that done, then paint the camouflage colours inside, you know, go over the top, then mask them, then paint the white, okay, and then remove the masking, and then when we glue them into the wing, we can put a soft edge here and paint the camouflage to blend in. If you've got any better ideas, please let me know. So get that sprue nib off of there. I'm wondering if those sprue nibs are going to foul with these location tabs. No, they aren't. So that goes together like that. Now then we've got a step there, is that right? Yes, there is a step there, so that's okay. And then this, is that going to drop down through? Oops. Just wonder if that's going to drop down through. Not by the look of it. No, it's upside down anyway. So let me turn it over and we'll see if it goes. Will you please come out? Right, let's go through that way. It won't go through that way, so it doesn't drop down through. So you have to glue this in first and make sure you get it the right way up. Okay, that doesn't look right to me. That's better. So it will go the wrong way up, so be careful, guys. If you look at it here, I'll show you in the camera, you can see that that is lining up. When we look down the length of it, you can see it's lining up. You can see we've got some bloody big seam work to deal with. And when you look at it this way, if I get it to go, it will go that way, but you can see that it's not lining up looking backwards. So we'll get that in that way. So yeah, we've got some seam work to deal with there. So I'm going to get a drop of extra thin just to hold that in place. These bloody white washers in these extra thin bottles, they always come off. Right, I'll show you a little tip for that. When these white washers come out of your extra thin bottles, if you get a pair of long nose pliers and this flange around the inside, if you just twist it like that and make it stick out on the edges, just like that, it'll hold it in, it won't fall out. Okay, full of little tips, aren't I? Right, so that's in like that. Now I'm going to make sure that when we put this on, it's still going to fit together okay. Doesn't want to go in. That's a bit awkward. That doesn't want to fit in there. It's because I've got the wrong one. I should have 37. Dear, dear, dear. Now that fits a lot better. I was just assuming that 36 was going to be there. In fact, I'm wondering now if the instructions were right, because it's 37 and 38. I thought it was 36 and 37. But that fits in there much better. Let's just check this one. So this one will go together like so. Again, that's a bit tight going in, but it does go in. Yeah, so I'm not sure now. If we go back through the video, you'll see which one I cut off first and put over there. But 37 goes with 4 and 7. So there we go. So I'm just wondering, this is A and B? Why are they calling this B? I suppose what they're saying is do this first and then do this. It's not version AB. Sometimes these Airfix instructions really confuse me. So we've got all of this is A. So whether they're saying to do this first or this is only for version A, but if you're building version B, just glue it all together because you don't need to do that. So if you're building version A, it's not telling you to glue it all together. So either it's saying do this first and then do that, or they're saying this is version B because it's not, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just looking at which is which and what's the top and the bottom. So this is 46. Okay, so it's going that way around, so that is the bottom. Alright, so when we work on it, that is the most important part, is that this bottom area of the splitter. So get plenty of extra thin in there and let it weld together. And what I'm kind of tempted to do is work on that area first before we glue it all together, because once you get it together, getting into that area is a little bit more tricky. So I think that's what we'll do, but I'll make sure it all fits together first. I've left the sprue nib on there, not that it matters. I think we'll get it together first so it can dry off. There we are. So that splitter's glued in on the bottom half only, and it's all together. So we'll leave it like that, and then on the other one we'll glue this one into the bottom as well, and then once the glue's dry we can put some Mr. Surfacer in there and blend it all out. And there we go, just push them together. Quite a tight fit going through there. There we go. So hold them together like that, that just makes life a lot easier. And we can just put a rubber band around them. Just to hold them together. Like so. There we go. Put those to one side, let them dry, and then we get the Mr. Surfacer in there. So that's the start of doing them. So now we come to the fun part. Right. So we've got to find these parts in the box. And there are so many bloody sprues. It's always at the bottom. It's next but last one. So this is the sprue we want, if we're going to do that, but we're not doing that. So we're not doing blue steel, so we're not going to cut those bits out. So what we're going to do is work on sprue D, which is this one, which you can see again I've cut in half. So we may have the bits on here, we may not. So $13, yes. 25, yes. Do they have the numbers on them? No, they don't. So we'll do these one at a time. So we've got D13 and D14. So these are numbered 5 and 6. So 13 and 14. And then D25. And this is going to be a lovely Bombay, one of the nicest 72nd scale Bombays on the market, as far as I know at the moment. The one in the Model Collect B2 is quite nice, but it's wrong. So where's my sanding sticks? There we go. We'll use this 220 to just remove the nibs from the ends. Don't worry guys, I'm not going to force you to watch all of this. We will just do one bit, one assembly, and then I'll go the rest off camera. Okay, so that's those cleaned up, and then in there I'm going to go in with a knife, clean that up nicely, and then what we can do is take a piece of wet and dry like this. It's too fine, and find a bit that's coarser. There we go. Piece of wet and dry. Which one was it? It was this one, wasn't it? Roll it into a radius and then just wipe it around like that. That'll get you a nice finish on there. Or you could wrap it around something cylindrical. We've got an X-Acto knife here, wrap it around that. And then you've got your radius hard sanding stick, and it won't leave any flat spots. If you go with the sanding stick, you're likely to put flats in it. So, and then we'll take a piece of fine 1200 and just polish it so we don't end up with that rough sanded edge. There we go, so that's that one, and then the ends of this need to be sanded just to remove that sprue nib. Same on here. There we go, job done. And so what we're going to do is glue these on. I've got that nib in there to deal with as well. So we just slice that one out with a knife. And then this is going to be with the grill facing this way. Number 6, which is this one, this is number 6, is going to glue on to there. So I'm assuming it's going to glue onto there like so. Okay, that's a nice touch. Okay, so we didn't need to worry about polishing that bottom edge. I assumed that bottom edge was going to be visible in the Bombay, but it's not. So we're just going to put a bit of extra thin in there just to get it in place. Be careful, don't put too much on it. It's all going to capillary under your fingers and make a mess. Just put some around there. There we go. As I say, careful how you hold it, because the glue will all capillary out under your fingers. And then this one, I've left a bit of a sprue nib on there. God, I'm making some schoolboy errors on this model, I tell you. Okay, and then this one's going to go up under here. And we also need to make sure, don't we, that they're even either side. Something I just thought of, there's no location. You could end up having them sort of exaggerated. You could end up having it like this. So you need to make sure it's centered as well. Drop of extra thin, let that do its business. There we go. Of course, you could always glue this from the back, I'm not worried, because what I'm going to be doing is probably a little drop of Mr. Surfacer around the edge, let it go off, and then sand it so we get that nice smooth look, because we've got a bit of a gap there, look. Little tiny gap there that I don't want to be visible, because when we end up giving it a wash and everything, it's going to pick it up. The other thing we need to be mindful of is when we glue this in, you're going to be able to see through there. You don't want to see grey plastic, so we'll make sure we get some black paint behind there. Give it the proper shadow effect. There we go, so that's in. Alright, so I'll go on and do 24 and 25, and then I'll come back and we'll look at doing this part here. Right, they're all assembled now. So there's 3 of those. Take note of the numbers, they only go a certain way. And also what's amazing is, if you look at these, like this one here has got no ejector pin marks whatsoever, and it's completely blind. This one here has got ejector pin marks in that one, but this one is nice and clear because you can see up through there. This one here, no ejector pin marks, but this one where you've got the vision, you can see up through there, there's an ejector pin mark in it. So we need to get in there and just sand that away. It's raised, it's not lowered. So if I'd have noticed it beforehand, I would have done it beforehand, but there we go. Just sand it away just so that it's not an obvious thing when you look up there. So all around here, we've got these joins where they've glued on. So I just want to make sure I get a nice sort of square looking structure when we look into the bomb bay. I don't want to be seeing a you know, a glued edge there where we've got all the, you know, because it will be getting a wash to dirty it up, and the wash will cling into all the dirtied up areas. So what I'm using here is a product called Mr. Surfacer. If you follow my channel, you know I use this all the time and absolutely love it. If you're new to the channel, this is a Mr. Hobby product. You can get this again from Premium Hobbies. Don't forget discount code NMB10. And basically, it's fantastic. It's like a brushable filler. You can get different grades of it. I would recommend, if you're just going to get one, get the 1000. And if it's a little bit thin, you just get some, put it on the side of the jar like this, okay, and leave it literally a few minutes. It will thicken up. If you want it a bit thinner, you can thin it down with some Mr. Colour leveling thinners, or any Mr. Colour thinners, or I think you can use the Tamiya lacquer thinners as well, but not the Tamiya acrylic thinners. X20A you can't use, you can use X20. So there we go, just brush this on. Put too much on because it will sink back, and then what we can do is, once it's dry, we can sand it smooth and we'll get a nice flat edge without any sort of lips there picking up wash and stuff, as we say. Okay, so there we go, make sure we get it all in there. Do the same on all 3. It's quite a warm day today, it should dry pretty quickly. Should be able to sand it within the hour. But in the meantime, we've got other stuff to be getting on with. There we go, so that's that one done. And then finally this one here. Brushed on. There we are, so that's that done. In fact, what we could do, while we got the brush dirty, we could also go in now and take care of these intakes. So we'll just brush some in here. We're probably going to need 2 or 3 applications on these, because it is quite deep. There we go, and do the same on this one, get it apart. We've got a gap down the back of that one. brush some in around there, like so. And then wipe the brush off. Keep one brush for Mr. Servicer. You don't need to clean it. You just wipe it off in a cloth. As soon as you start using it next time, the Mr. Servicer, when you dip your brush in, it'll soften the hard Mr. Servicer that's there. So we can leave those to dry for a moment. Right, so getting on with the instructions now. We're going to assemble these main parts of the bomb bay. So we've got these off here. So we've got the actual bulkhead there, the main spar. And then this is the wall of the bomb bay, and that is going to fit in there, and it's such a lovely fit, it just stays on its own. So we'll just brush some extra thin down the outside where it's not going to be seen. Okay, make sure it's together, and then with a square I'm just going to quickly check that it's square. And there we go. If it isn't square when you come to fit it, drop some extra thin down there, it'll soften the joint again and you'll be able to move it around. So there we go, same on this side, just clips in. And some extra thin down there, give it a little nudge, in it goes. And there we are. So that's that step done. And then we've got to glue that to this main spar here. So we just clip this one off here. Then I'll clean it up and then we'll get it glued together. Okay, so that's glued together now. Now if you've got a modelling board like I have here with the grids on, you can use this to make sure it's square. Now this may not be perfectly straight, it's probably going to have some warp in it because it's a long, fairly thin piece of plastic, but if we sort of square up the engine areas here, then we can look vertically down on it, which I can't do because if I do I'll have my head between you and the workpiece. We can basically make sure that one's parallel and make sure these sides, when we look vertically, are square. So what I'll do is I'll do it this way so I can see it. So we can get that squared up on there. And now I can see that it's square. So make sure that it's going to be fairly flexible anyway once it's dried, but it's best to get it right to start with. Okay, so we get that lined up with there, lined up with there. So we're somewhere handy. So there we are. So that's that. And we've got to glue all them in. But first of all, we're going to deal with the Mr. Servicer. What we could do is put D23 and D24 in, which are here. So I'll get these off, get them cleaned up, and then we'll glue them in. Right, so that's those cleaned up now. So we've got 23 and 24. 23 is the one with the small cutouts. 24 is the one with the larger cutouts. We can see in the instructions here. So what we're going to do is, I've got the same way as in the instructions, so 23 is going to go in this way, and as you can see we've got like an angle on there, and it's going to grow up as we go back, so that's going to go in there. That's a very nice fit, and that one is going to go in there, and again that's a lovely fit, so they just literally sit in there. So we'll just check the fit of these. So this one is 23. We can see we've got 5 here, so that one's going to sit in like that. Okay, and then we've got 24, which is the little narrow one, and it's saying that we've got the number 3 facing that way, so you could actually put this together wrong, guys, so be a little bit careful. It's not engineered faultless, so you can't make a mistake. You could make a mistake. Okay, so that's going like that, that's going like that, and then this one here is going with that slot facing forward, and that is all going to go like that. It's going to drop down in, it doesn't seem to want to go all the way in. There we go. And then when we pick that up and look at it from underneath, we will see our bomb bay falling apart. When we pick it up and look at it from underneath, we can see, there we go, rough idea, that's how it's going to look, and that is lovely. Very, very nice indeed. It's going to look bloody great with all the bombs in there and the doors open, all dirty and everything. So I'm going to wait for this Mr. Surfacer to dry and then sand them off, and then we'll get them all fitted in. Right, so while that framework's drying and while the Mr. Surfacer's drying, these here you can see they've got a gap down the back. You can see there's a gap there that needs to be filled, and it's easiest to fill it with some plastic. So I've got some 5 thou plastic card here. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to push it in like that on the diagonal, okay, and then just make a mark in it. In fact, what I'll do is probably leave it to the top actually, because we'll probably have a gap at the top as well. So what I can do then is just mark it. Let's mark it with a pencil. So we can mark it with a pencil there, and then just come in and just cut it off. Okay, and then we'll cut a bit off the side, just like so. And then that can pop down in there. Like that, and just fill that gap. Okay, it doesn't need to be neat and tidy on the sides because we can just trim that afterwards, but get it in like that as far as you can. Extra thin down the back of it, extra thin down the front, because remember, if you need to glue it from both sides. Give it a little nudge back. Okay, and then when we put this upper piece on, yeah, it's fitting in the top as well, so we need it all the way up, so making it double the height helps. Okay, so that's going to go in like that, and then we'll do the same on this one. We'll just cut a piece off like that, and we can push that down in there, get it down as far as we can, and then just get some glue in there, both sides. Stick it in. That's that job done. Then we can trim the sides off here. Better pair of cutters. Trim the sides off here. There we go. And then put the top on. Check it's all going to fit like a glove, he says. Struggling to get it together. Yeah, it may not need it on the top half of this one, but if we can push it in, then we'll leave it there. There we go. So there we are. That's going to go in like that. So that's taking care of that gap then, and then we can just trim it, bit of Mr. Surfacer, sand it down, job done. You're not going to end up putting filler in time after time after time and just watching it sink every time you do it. So as I say, make sure it's glued in there nice and solid, front and back. And that's that done. That takes care of that gap. And when it's dry, we can just trim it with a knife and get some Mr. Surfacer on it. I'm not going to put it back together now because the glue down there may get onto this and glue them together. So we'll just stick those to one side. We're getting quite a table of bits here. So moving on through the instructions, obviously we're waiting for that to dry. See, we can start adding these spars. We don't need that framework in there to be able to add all this. So I'm going to get these parts off the sprue, and then we'll get this done. We're going to have quite a big wing assembly then. Just another little tip for the newer modelers out there. You can see on here, I've got this great big unwieldy sprue. I'm not going to be using this because I'm not going for blue steel. So basically all I need to do is take these two engine intakes off, put them in the box. Okay, we'll cut this off for the spares bin in case we want to use it on anything else. I don't know why we would, but you never know. It's probably not, it might fit the old Vulcan. It's nicer than the old one because it's already got the engraved panel lines. So now we can put that in the box so we can get rid of that great big sprue. So that's one less large unwieldy sprue to deal with. And another issue I always have is in Gloucester, I put my sprues in the recycling, they don't take them. So that's a bit of a pain. And then here you see we've got this sprue here. We can cut this off. Cut all this away, and again we're reducing the size of the sprues and making it easier to handle, making it easier to find parts in the box. It's just a good little tip for newer modelers. Now I want to get the lower wing section out as well, because we can use this as a template. When we build all this up, we can lay this in and just see how it goes. So that's, yeah. So we just lay that in the right way around into each half and just check that everything's going to fit. Okay, I mean, what we could do here is take these out, or we could cut this sprue away from the middle, cut that away like so. If I will leave that there, we'll cut these bits away. That one was already broken off. Cut that one away from there, and then we can take that piece of sprue out, and then it won't be in our way, and we can put that in each half just like so, and then we can make sure everything's going to line up, okay, without taking these off the sprue. I'll get these cleaned up and then I will come back. Okay, so we've got these off. Now with these, it's absolutely imperative, and with these, when you see a nice large flat sanding stick, and sand them and make sure you haven't got any flash bits and pieces, no sprue nibs or whatever, because anything on here is going to stop the wing fitting together properly. Okay, now we don't know what the fit's going to be like yet. We're obviously going to dry fit it before we do any gluing, but we need to make sure it goes together. Remember, with the Hellcat wings, there's a bit of an issue around the gun bays, so we're going to be a little bit careful. I'm going to make sure on here as well we've got no lumps and bumps. There's a bit of a bump there I can feel, so I'm just going to sand over that. This is a 220 grit. This is a Infinity Zebra stick. They're bloody brilliant, these things, for doing these large flat areas, because they're nice and strong and they're solid and they don't round everything off. So just going over that like that, and just making sure everything's smooth. I'm just going to give this another check along here, check all this is nice and smooth, no sprue nibs left anywhere. It's all nice and smooth. And remember, these little semicircular cutouts, you can see one there and you can see one there. They're what you cut out if you're going to use the blue steel. So let's get this glued together. So as I say, I'm doing this out of sequence because having these on here is not going to affect how those beams fit. So it's saying here we've got 3 and 4. You in picture? Can you see on there? We've got 3 and 4. So that one's going to go in there like that. Okay. So I'm just going to hold that in place and run a drop of extra thin down the back of it. Alright, now that's got some play in it. Vertically you can move it up and down, so we're going to make sure it's nice and flush on the top. Because all those beams are going to be up here, it's going to be easier to sand the bottom if we need to do any adjustment. So that's just going to sit there like that. And then we've got this piece here, this piece here, 21. If you notice, I haven't bothered taking the sprue nibs off the outside because they don't matter. There's a little ledge there I can see from the mould tool. So this is going to go into the end of here. That's a nice snug fit. That's going to sit on top of there. This is going to go into the end of here, and then that is going to sit in there. Okay, so because those ends fit so tightly, I'm only going to glue this one at the moment. Okay, we'll hold that for a second, let it bite. And then we can grab our lower wings and just check that it's all going to fit okay. So we've got a corner there for it to sit in. It's sitting between 2 ribs there. That's sitting between 2 ribs. That's resting there. It fits absolutely perfectly. In fact, it looks like you could pour fillers of water and it wouldn't even have any leaks. It fits that well. Wow, that is very good. So we're all good there. So we can put this to one side, and then we can do the other side. So we'll put that together like that. Run some extra thin down there. Just let that sit there, and then grab this one, clip into the end there, clip it into the end there, rest that in, put some glue in there, get that welded kind of solid. This is all kind of like the Tempest, isn't it? Or the Typhoon, sorry, not the Tempest. The Airfix 1/24 scale one. Get some glue in there and some glue in there. Push them together, make sure they're nicely honed together. Job done, and then we can try this one also in the wing. So we're sitting between two ribs there, sitting into the corner there. Look at that, perfect. We've got a very, very strong centre section then for everything to hang off of. And then we're into removing these green parts of the wing if we're going to be doing the blue steel, but we're not. Adding these undercarriage doors if we're having the doors up, but we're not. You can ignore that page. And then going over here, we're going to put the wings together and put the blue steel in, but we're not doing that. We're doing this if we're having the Bombay door closed and we're doing version B. We're not doing that. And then we're going to add the spars in if we're doing the blue steel version, but we're not. And we can add these spars in if we're doing the Bombay closed, but we're not. So here we go. This is where we're coming to. We're going to glue that into there and then glue the other wing on. But before we do any of that, I want to make sure we've got those spars in. So I'm going to let this Mr. Surfacer dry and then do some sanding. And to be honest, I'm going to have some lunch. Right, so we can take a step back now to step 28, where we're going to add these cross members. Now, all these cross members, or I don't know what you call them really. But basically, we're going to fit these in, and you can see that I've got Mr. Surfacer. If you look closely, I've sanded it out, and you can see there's Mr. Surfacer sort of in the gap, and then I've sanded off this face as well, and it just makes it all into one rather than having a seam there for the wash and that to pick up in. So we want a nice clean joint. It may shrink back a bit further, but it'll just like align them rather than a gap, you know. So basically what I'm going to do is glue one of these in. So we'll go for the sort of the middle one, which is going to be this one here, 23, which is that one there. So I'm going to glue this one in. That's going to go in there. Just to, it's going to go that way round. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's going to go that way round, and it goes in 1, 2, 3 back. So that's, yeah, get the right round now, so that helps. 1, 2, 3 back, so it's going to go in there like so. So it drops down in, so it's level on the top edge there. Just going to check that I have cleaned that nib up nicely enough. This is like a 400 grit, a worn 400 grit, so it's more like an 800 grit. Yeah, so that's going to go in there like so. There we go. So we can get some extra thin down inside there. The same on this side. Down like that, and that gets all that together. This is the fun part of the build. This is the sort of stuff I love, structures like this. Okay, and then just a bit of glue down there. I just want to hold that down so it sits. Otherwise we get a gap in this corner here. So there we go. So we can leave that to dry before we start doing anything else. It's a very, very strong structure. But it really does want to stay up. I don't know why, it's like it's slightly twisted. So I'm going to have to think of some way of clamping that down. If I put some of the extra thin quick setting in there, that may help. If I get a clamp across it. These clamps are pretty rubbish, to be fair, but it should just hold it there. There we go. I have to do a bit more Mr. Surface work on here, I think, because I don't want to see any gaps in it. Because it's white, we're going to give it a wash. Any little gaps are going to pick up the wash and it's going to look horrible. So that's not the end of the world. So there we are. That's that in. Wait for that to dry and then come back. Okay, so that's dry. Something I did forget to mention, you can actually get Mr. Surfacer in black and also in mahogany, and I should have used that, and then I would have easier be able to see where it is. I should have used that rather than the grey, but never mind. A bit late now. I could use the black, I suppose, when we do this. So let's start getting the rest of these in. So this is 24. So we need to make sure we got it the right way round, and there is a number 3 in here somewhere. Yeah, there's a 3 there, so that's going to go that way round. So it's going to go in like that, like so. Is that right? To find a straight edge. Yes. If you put it that way round, it doesn't fit properly, so there we go, it has to go in that way round. There we go. So I'm going to use quick setting these because I don't want to be hanging around with these if they're going to start twisting about and everything like that first one did. So we get that to go down in. There we go, that's down in like that. Lovely. And then the next one going forward is this big one here. So that's going to drop in there like so. Go. So drop some extra thin down in there. I'm hoping and praying this is all going to fit the upper wing section nicely, because if it doesn't, it's going to be a nightmare. But looking at the way it goes together at the moment, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fine. Okay, and then we've got these two here. So we've got the one with the longer grooves is the foremost one. Glue in there, a bit of glue in there. There we go, and then this one finally is going to go in, and it's going to be that way round, just like so. Drop a glue in there, drop a glue in there. And that, my friends, is that. So that one's narrower than that one. So do I force it? No, I'm just going to let it sit like that, I think, because if I pull that one in, it's the sides are sort of going in like this. So I'll put some more glue down in that one. Just kind of pull that together. I guess what we could do is use our holding tweezers to hold those joints together, like so. There we go. Lovely. Yeah, I'm hoping and praying that's all going to go nicely with the upper part, but as long as we do it pretty soon, we'll be able to get in with some extra thin and soften the joints up if we need to. So that's that done. So moving forward, the next part is actually gluing these into the bottom wing. So as I say, I'm going to have some lunch. I've been and put the oven on. But, I'm kind of wondering if we can try that in the upper wing. No, we can't. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. I'm sure it's all going to be lovely. So take those off now that glue's had a chance to bite. They're all sort of vertical and all looking good. So, God, that's going to be a lovely Bombay. Right. So this is going to be fitting up here, I guess. So you can now see we've got a Vulcan starting to appear, yeah, albeit a short one. See you in a minute. Yeah, handling a B52 is on this bench is a nightmare. It's just too big, and don't worry guys, I will get that B52 finished. My mojo is coming back and things are happening, so I can get that B52 done. Right, so got this here. Now what I've done, I've cut these off obviously, and I'm going to have a look at the fit before we start doing anything, because I've noticed something. I'm going to share my secret with you guys. Right, so what we've got is these two wing halves, and obviously you're joined down the centre, and you've got these tabs that are going to locate in there. Now if we look at this one here, it's not too bad. When we put the tab in there and I'm feeling across, it feels quite flush, although there is a slight step. But on this back end here, there's quite a step going across. I don't know if you can see that if I bring it up to the camera. If you can see, there's quite a step there going up. So what I'm going to do is we can either scrape some plastic away from in here, or we can sand the tab. So if I take a 220 grit and just gently sand the tab, remembering it's on a radius, and I'm going to get my 10 blade knife and scrape into the corner. Okay, because obviously the sanding stick can't get right into the corner. And then just keep testing, keep trying it and feeling it, and you will notice it start to come back really flush. And this is just going to stop you from having to do all that work afterwards and working around sanding and rescribing and everything. And there we can see it's starting to come back. So if I get my knife blade in there again and just scrape out the corner. Just like so. And we can see it's starting to improve. It's starting to come more level. You can see it's got less of a step in it here now. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do the same on the front. We've got a slight step on there, very slight step. So just sand some plastic off of there. Scrape into the corner. Just make sure we have got right into that corner. We can put these together, and that's much better. And the back is better, but it still needs more work, so I'll carry on with that. In fact, what I'm going to call it a day for part 3 there, because we're now moving on to a fairly major part of the assembly, and I want to keep the videos all to about an hour long, or you'll be falling asleep on me. Plus, if you notice, I'm doing them in HD now. They take forever to upload. An hour video takes about an hour and a half to upload onto my computer, and then it takes another hour and a half to upload onto iTunes, onto YouTube. So yeah, it's quite a lengthy old process. Oh, and one other tip, guy, one other thing. If my videos have loads of ads in them, in the middle of them, I will spot it. What happens is, when you load a video up to YouTube, you basically load the video up, and then you have a choice to monetize or not monetize. Well, obviously I have a choice. I monetize, and then because it's an hour-long video, I'm going to put an ad in the middle or two. So what you do is you select. You don't select. You would have to unselect middle range apps or something, or mid-range ads or something. So what they do is YouTube automatically put ads in, and they put loads in. And the trouble is, they only do it sometimes. So I might look at the video 10 minutes after it's gone up and there'll be none there, and then after an hour there's like an ad every 4 minutes or something. So you need to be just a bit patient, because I will look after a couple of hours of it being up, and I'll take them all out. Or I'll take all of them but one or maybe two out, but usually all of them. Usually I'll just leave one. So, but they are ridiculous, because sometimes, you know, it'll be a 53-minute 42-second long video and they put an ad in at 52 minutes 50. It's like crazy. Anyway, that's it for now. That's it for part 3. I'll see you for part 4, when we're going to get all this together and do some more work on these intakes. In the meantime, I'll be putting more Mr. Surfacer in around here and getting some sanding done.